What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, the plot gets thicker. As undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence Bud Crawford. 38 wins, no losses, no draws, 29 wins by way of knockout. He's 34 years of age, 5'8", with a 74-inch arm reach. He was last seen in the squared circle November 20th when he took on two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter in defense of his WBO title, in which Terence Crawford got a 10th round stoppage victory, dropping Shawn Porter twice in the 10th round, and which saw Shawn Porter's father, trainer, and manager Kenny Porter wave the white towel. With that said, Terence Crawford, 34 years of age, has now taken his longtime promotional company and promoter, legendary promoter, Top Rank CEO and promoter Bob Arum, and Top Rank to court, and stating that they have agreed to have Terence Crawford face off against guys like EGS which Terence Crawford, he defended fighting EGS and stated that EGS who was his WBO mandatory challenger, was a very good fighter, and EGS wasn't getting enough credit, and Terence Crawford took the fight. Well, Terence Crawford is now stating, as he's taken Bob Arum, Top Rank, to court, he's now stating that EGS was supposed to be part of a package deal that was supposed to secure a showdown with his longtime rival now, his biggest rival, should I say, in undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Earl the True Spence Jr., who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, with a record of 27 wins, no losses, no draws, 21 big wins by way of knockout. He is 31 years of age, 5'9.5", with a 72-inch arm reach. Last time he was in the ring was December 5th of 2020 when he took on defeated 2-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia. With that said, the fight never came to fruition. So Terence Crawford is now stating that they falsely promised him that they would secure a fight with Errol Spence Jr. and was unable to do so, and that they cost him big amounts of money and a legacy fight. Well, this also proves that Terence Crawford was falsely accusing Errol Spence of avoiding a fight with himself when he stated that Errol Spence doesn't want the fight. Well, now Terence Crawford is letting it be known that, well, Top Rank had promised him a fight with Errol Spence Jr., and they was the ones that were unable to secure the fight, okay? Here's what Terence Crawford had to say, quote, he said, Top Rank fraudulently promised to arrange for Crawford to fight Errol Spence Jr., despite knowing that Top Rank could never deliver the promised match. Top Rank also failed to deliver any promised second bouts with second parties, promotional, and breach their promotional rights, okay? So you hear that Terence Crawford is saying that they promised him the Errol Spence fight, knowing they couldn't deliver the Errol Spence fight. Okay, so they had no intention of delivering the Errol Spence fight. So there you have it. When people are saying that Errol Spence was avoiding Terence Crawford, well, you have it right there. The proof is in the pudding. Also, here's what Terence Crawford had to say regarding, the EGS fight, is that that they forced the Egis fight upon him, and with hopes that he would secure a fight again with Errol Spence Jr. So Terence Crawford is telling you that he didn't want to fight Egis Kavaliauskas. He wanted the bigger fights. But at the time, Terence Crawford was saying that people wasn't giving him enough credit for fighting the likes of Egis Kavaliauskas, who had an extensive amateur background. Okay, and so here's what Terence Crawford had to say. Crawford had alleged that, quote, Crawford alleged that Top Rank breached its contract with him, and fact, defrauded him into entering agreements in the first place, he said, with Egis Kavaliauskas, okay? With an agreement that if he fought Egis Kavaliauskas to satisfy ESPN, its TV partner, with a fight with Egis Kavaliauskas, in order to fulfill the obligation of ESPN, its TV partner, they would have an agreement that they would arrange for Terence Crawford to fight Errol Spence Jr. So now they're saying that he was in position to fight Errol Spence Jr. So another legend, Hall of Famer, iconic superstar boxer, who had his second career, and in his second career after a 10-year hiatus, that being none other than Hall of Famer Big George Foreman, former heavyweight 2-time undisputed champion. He was signed with Top Rank and Bob Arum for the second stint in his career, and he came to the defense of Bob Arum and the statements made by Terence Crawford. And George Foreman is now saying that Terence Crawford simply did not want to take the arrangements to fight Errol Spence. So he's saying that it was on Terence Crawford to take the fight with Errol Spence in agreement, but he didn't take what was being offered. Okay, so now many people know that, Errol Spence was saying a 60-40 split in his favor because he was simply the biggest star. Now, what George Foreman is saying, that Bob Arum is many things, and he puts his foot in his mouth, is what George Foreman says a lot of times. He says, but, Bob Arum, when it comes to African-American fighters, he would have made the fight, so on and so forth. He was defending Terence Crawford, okay? Meaning Bob Arum was defending Terence Crawford in the situation. But we know Bob Arum, he took the interviews and social media, and when he stated that he lost so much money on Terence Crawford in his past fights, especially pay-per-view, that he could build a mansion in Beverly Hills from scratch. So we know he wasn't a big believer in Terence Crawford's star power and selling power, okay, and drawing power. So with that said, George Foreman is coming to the defense of Bob Arum. Okay, so George Foreman also had this to say. He said, "It breaks my heart to hear Crawford accuse Arum of such accusations. Arum has promoted many of the top African-American fighters in the past 60 years, including myself, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and others." This is what George Foreman had to say. Okay, so George Foreman is coming to the defense of Bob Arum. Okay, he says that, quote, this is what George Foreman, "He gave me the most passionate hug and said, 'George, praise the Lord.'" Foreman said, "For someone to accuse the guy like that of these accusations is wrong. But you know what? You know what they say, all is fair in loving." So now he's saying that, Terence Crawford knows what he did wrong. Okay, he knows that he didn't put his best foot forward, and he was being difficult as far as negotiations. Now, we heard Bob Arum utter those same sentiments at a point in time when he stated that Terence Crawford was being difficult in negotiations. Okay, so George Foreman is coming to the defense of Bob Arum. Now, George Foreman goes on record to say that you could find 25 to 30 guys to defend what I'm saying and to be, represent Bob Arum in this case. And he stated that you could also find guys that, behind the scenes that would show you that Terence Crawford essentially was being difficult in the negotiations and not looking to make the fights happen with Errol Spence Jr., so on and so forth as far as promotions. But he also says that, he don't know how deep it goes because he wasn't involved. So he's just defending the character of Bob Arum, that being George Foreman, okay? And he says, he ends it by saying he knows that Bob Arum is not a saint, okay? Well, we know Bob Arum had the MBF rule. And we know that was revealed at some point in time. So with that said, though, Terence Crawford is looking to get $10 million in reparations for, his services and not being, for not their promises not being fulfilled. So here's the thing that I have is that, my opinion is that it raises the question, when fans and boxing media question Terence Crawford fighting Egis Kavalauskas, okay, Terence Crawford, he got frustrated with fans questioning why is he fighting Egis Kavalauskas, okay, and Terence Crawford, he defended why he's fighting Egis Kavalauskas, who was his WBO World Boxing Organization's mandatory challenger, okay, and Terence Crawford, he stated that fans just didn't know what they were talking about, how good Egis Kavalauskas was. Now, this was December of 2019 when he fought Egis Kavalauskas, who at the time was undefeated. Okay, he got a TKO victory, and it was a tough fought fight. So with that said, Terence Crawford defended fighting Egis Kavalauskas, and in hopes of fighting Errol Spence on the back end. So I think that Terence Crawford felt that fans would overlook the fact that he fought Egis Kavalauskas because he's going to fight Errol Spence next. It explains the frustration on the part of Terence Crawford, who nearly a year later ended up fighting former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer, Special K. Kell Brook, with a record of 39 wins and 2 losses, who was stopped by Errol Spence at his last fight at welterweight. So Terence Crawford, Bob Arum says that Terence Crawford was being reluctant to sign the contract to fight Kell Brook. So he explains why Terence Crawford was frustrated with signing the contract to fight Kell Brook, because he was promised a fight with Errol Spence Jr. and it didn't come to fruition. Okay, and so with that said, Terence Crawford ended up fighting him, but Bob Arum was stating that Terence Crawford is being, difficult, and that he had to leave it up to the handlers at Top Rank to get a deal done with Terence Crawford in his next fight, because Terence Crawford was being difficult. Well, it explains that Terence Crawford was promised that he would get the Errol Spence fight, but Terence Crawford knew that Top Rank couldn't deliver the Errol Spence fight, okay, and had no intentions. So Terence Crawford felt like they had no intentions of delivering the Errol Spence fight, okay? And so now Bob Arum, he responds. Bob Arum finally responds to Terence Crawford's claims, and Bob Arum has this to say. He says, quote, Bud Crawford lawsuit against Top Rank is frivolous. Arum wrote, its vile accusations of things that I said are reckless and indefensible. He knows it, and his lawyer knows it. I have spent my entire working life as a champion of black fighters, Latino boxers, and other boxers. I have no doubt that the court will see Crawford's case as a malicious extortion attempt that it is. Wow. So Bob Arum feels like Terence Crawford is just looking to get money out of him. And Bob Arum also goes on to say that Terence Crawford didn't want to accept the fight with Errol Spence Jr. So this is definitely the waters are definitely getting very muddy in this case. It's going to get, I believe it's going to grow worse, as the time goes on, because there's going to be a lot revealed, and so, now you have George Foreman coming out defense of Bob Arum. You have, Terence Crawford, saying that they promised him the Errol Spence fight and never delivered. So there's a lot that's going to be revealed in this entire equation, and it's going to get more and more interesting. What's more interesting is Terence Crawford has now had his last fight with Top Rank, ESPN, and Bob Arum, which was Sean Porter. And now Terence Crawford is network promotional free agent. And so with that said, it's going to be interesting to see where Terence Crawford goes moving forward from here. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share the videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.